Good evening. I hate to call to a halt all this great conversation that's going on, but the powers that be have signaled to me that it's time to begin the program. I hope you're enjoying your meal and your dessert. I'm Steve Moberly. It's been my privilege to serve as the co-chair of class of 1963 50th IU reunion in consort with Herman, a man who really needs no introduction. But I would like to make a few comments and a few introductions. First of all, we had a great committee that met with the staff over several months to make some suggestions about what we should be doing today and what kind of programs. So we hope that you've enjoyed what we were able to put together. Obviously, we could not have done so without the help of our great staff. And if they're about someplace, I do want to introduce them and have them stand, and then please hold your applause to the end. But a young man that joined the IUAA staff a few years ago had been the chairman of the Monroe County chapter of the IU Alumni Association, and did a great job of launching it, getting it off the ground. We had like 5,000 IU graduates in this county, but there was no local IU chapter. So Mike Mann got it up and running, and now he's a full-time staff member of the IU Alumni Association. So Mike, stand up. Also, Vicki Martin has been a very important part of our team to put on this weekend. Vicki is part of the IU Foundation staff, and she works very closely with the staff of the IU Alumni Association. So Vicki, would you stand up and take it off? And then lastly, certainly but not least, a very young member of the IUAA staff, Jacqueline B. Some of you may have noticed that Jacqueline is expecting her first child, and her due date is tomorrow. She is a real trooper. That's for sure. And then we're also very glad to have with us tonight the Deputy Executive Director of the Indiana University Alumni Association, Debbie Lemon. Debbie. And the Chief of Staff at the IU Alumni Association is Trish Revere. We couldn't have done it without them. And then lastly, and then I'm going to surrender the podium to Kurt. The committee for this event, there are a few committee members here today, but I would like to ask them to stand. Please hold your applause until they've all stood. But Roger Isaacs, Dr. Isaacs, a dentist here in Bloomington. My wife, Sandy, Judy Simic, Kurt's wife, and Ron Hancock, who lives in Valparaiso, clear up in northwest Indiana. He drove down, I think he never missed a meeting. So we're giving them a round of applause. And I'll turn it over to my cohort.
Thank you, Steve. Well, do you know what today is? Today is June the 8th. Yesterday, June the 7th, was Dr. Wells' 111th birthday. And you know, any of us who came to Indiana University were touched by that. Yeah. A great, great man. Every university has a patriarchal president somewhere along the line, and he certainly was ours. So, I wish you would stand up and let's sing Happy Birthday, Dear Herman. Is that okay with you? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Herman. Happy birthday to you. Thank you. You know, would love the dessert 3 or 4 times. We had so much fun. You know, we're all recounting our experiences here, and one of the things that we realize is, yes, there was the Herman Wells who was up here making sure that this was a wonderful place, but there were individual people who helped us along the way. Just in your own mind's eye, think about the people who were your faculty members, the people that inspired you. Think about the people who cared about you when you were having a tough time. Think about the people that helped you along the way if there were financial issues, and a number of us have had that kind of experience with people. But just think about those people and think about what they meant to you in helping this university open the world to you, because it certainly did for all of us in a variety of ways. But I just thought that one of the words that I still learn things. It's really surprising, but I do. There's a word that's on the seal of the University of Rochester, and it's meliora. Meliora. And it connects with ameliorate. It connects in a way that says, make better, ever better. Make the world ever better. And I guess what I'd like to say to you before we get together again at some time, we actually have an agitating group to talk about another reunion so that we can do what the class of '53 did, which is show up again and have a good time. And we've certainly enjoyed sharing these events with you too. But think about what is it that you can do just in a little way, sometime, someday, whenever the opportunity presents itself, to make life a little bit better. Make a little bit better for somebody else, because we all have those opportunities every single day. So let's seize upon them and do them as we can. I have the second opportunity to introduce Debbie Lemon. Debbie has been a star in the firmament of Indiana University staff for a long time. She worked as a part of the legislative relations part of the university. She was very much involved in Hoosiers for Higher Education, which is a group that tries to bring compelling logic to our legislature very hard. But one of those kinds of things. But I'll tell you what, she is a very fine leader, and the deputy director carries a heavy load in the Alumni Association. So Debbie, we welcome you. We thank you for all the work that you do and what the association does for us too.
I do a very good job of controlling the legislature or Congress, so. Or Kurt Zimmy for that matter. I'm actually taking the place of JT Forbes, and JT is our exalted ruler of the executive director and CEO of the IU Alumni Association. He had to kind of buzz out of town at the last minute, but we just completed our Alumni Leaders Conference, and we had over 215, 220 people from all over the country that came to IU this weekend to celebrate their volunteer work, just like you have volunteered to be here tonight, and all of those people on your committee. I cannot tell you that how much this means to us, to look out and see how much you love this place and how much this place has loved you and has given you over the years. So I'm just going to take you back a little memory lane. Actually, a lot of this I remember. I will say I don't remember 1953 because it wasn't here. But I do remember 63 a little bit. So let's go back to Indiana University in 1953. Guess what? 1952, 1953, what happened? NCAA National Championship. I'm happy to say my class was the last class for a national championship with a spotless record. 1976. So I understand your excitement about having a national championship in Branch McCracken. You were on campus for the very first Little 500. Howdy Wilcox. You remember going around Memorial Hall? In the United States at the time, it was President Harry Truman who announced that the United States had developed a hydrogen bomb. Dwight D. Eisenhower succeeded Harry Truman. Walt Disney had his 14th animated film, which was Peter Pan. And the 25th Academy Awards was for the very first time broadcast on live national television. Going to 1963, Elvis Starr was inaugurated as president of IU after Herman Wells retired. Wells was named, of course, our university chancellor. The John Foster Quadrangle was completed to house 450 women and 732 men separately. Not today. The geology and psychology buildings were completed and highlighted a great expansion on campus. How many of you drove past the new expanded Keller School of Business today? Amazing to see what has happened on that corridor. And of course with the sparkling Wells Library. During the 1962-63 basketball season, our record was 13-11 under Coach Branch McCracken and with Jimmy Rail. How many of you remember Jimmy Rail? I will never forget this. I was home, I was listening, of course back then you had to listen to it on the radio. And I'll remember when Jimmy Rail scored something like 50-some points before the three-point line. I will remember that till the day I die. And remember the sawdust in the field house where the basketball was being played before Assembly Hall was open? Yeah, I remember that too. The Menard Sale brothers. Campus Chess Week, don't remember that, was a highlight as fun for charity echoed through the campus, and $12,000 was presented to the Committee on Philanthropic Endeavors. Some of the student group winners included Sigma Chi, Alpha Phi, Lambda Chi, and Beta Theta Phi. I'm sorry, Phi Beta Phi. Sorry, not Pi Phi. Homecoming your senior year included twist bands at the blanket hop, the football game, and elaborate yard decorations. I remember that on the parade route. The Oak and Bucket was won by the Hoosiers, and a celebration was hosted at the IU Auditorium with team captain Nate Ramsey, who spoke that time. And it was the 12th Little 500 and Phi Kappa Psi who won the race that year. I remember this very clearly. This was in the state of Indiana. 74 people perished in the gas explosion at the Coliseum. It was Holiday on Ice. It was very, very sad. The Indiana State Seal was standardized to the current design by the General Assembly. And Studebaker, everybody remember Studebaker? My parents had one. It was kind of one of those aqua-colored ones. Yep, great car, but it went out of business in South Bend. In the United States, the Beatles were introduced to the U.S. So how many enjoyed playing gas? I would just take his class 6 hours a day, 5 days a week if I could. He is so wonderful. One thing I'll tell you about Glenn, and I don't know if he told you this, but every few years he takes a group of students over to London and he does a complete Abbey Road tour. So he takes them to Liverpool, he takes them to all the haunts of the Beatles. And I want to be a student. I would love to go back to school. The long-running soap opera, General Hospital, is shown in U.S. theaters. It debuts, sorry. Dr. No, the first James Bond film, is shown in U.S. theaters. Zip codes are introduced. Can you imagine where we would be without zip codes? Martin Luther King delivered his I Have a Dream speech in front of 250,000 people in the Lincoln Memorial. Marvel Comics releases the first ever X-Men comic book. And I remember this day as long as I live. I remember I was in 4th grade, the assassination of John F. Kennedy. I think that's a moment in all of our lives that we'll never forget. In the world, the unfortunate continuation of the Vietnam War, which I know certainly touched almost everybody in this room. The Beatles released their first album called Please Please Me. Harvey Bell invents the ubiquitous smiley face. And Brad Pitt and Johnny Depp were born. Where would we be without Brad and Johnny? Just to kind of give you kind of a context of how much things cost in 1963. Average cost of a house, $12,650. Gas per gallon, gulp, 29 cents. The average cost of a new car, $3,233. A loaf of bread, 22 cents. And a bedroom air conditioner that we all loved back then, $149.95 at Sears. So it's kind of fun to look back. But you know, we live in the present, and our present is pretty darn good. And the reason reason our president is darn good is due to your philanthropy this past year. The things that you do, the things that you have paid forward because of your experiences on this campus, make it possible for these young people that are walking in this room today, go to school, have scholarships, have a place over their head that's very safe and secure, and to have an experience on the most beautiful campus in the world, as far as I'm concerned, and also as far as many of our architectural geniuses. So, on behalf of the IU Alumni Association, you join 570,000 graduates of Indiana University around this globe. And because of what you have done and your bold footsteps in 1953 and 1963, we can enjoy the fruits of your labor. And for that, I thank you very much. So I would like to call my man, the young white man, to come up, and we're going to get the rest of this party started.
Okay, and I'm going to call my cohort in crime, Vicki Martin, back up here, co-cruise director. A few days ago, I had referenced something at work about cruise director in the Love Boat, and I got a lot of blank stares from the students. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm getting a little bit older than them. So, Vicki's going to start us off here, and then we'll go through the class list.
First of all, with my role at the foundation, I so appreciate this. There were a few questions this afternoon about how we came across this amount of money from all of you. This is the accumulation of the giving of you and all of your classmates. That in the changes that we have made in the way that we do philanthropy with our reunions, you notice that we did not have a class campaign and we didn't have a specific goal. What we have done is decide that all your giving counts. And what you give to at the university counts. And the beginning of the fiscal year of your reunion, we start counting what all of you do on a regular basis for IU all the time. And we count that for all of your classmates. So this is accumulation of what all of you have done, really without any plea from us directly, just what you do on a regular basis for IU. Some of you wonder how you can add to this. We're not done counting yet. This is part of it, but the counting doesn't stop till June 30th. So if anybody wants to add to this amount, we're happy to accept that, add it to this total, and let you know what it comes to. I try to tell people that if you've got IU in your will, that's fabulous. But if you let us document it, it becomes a part of this. And it becomes a part of the legacy of IU. And we would love to be able to help you do that. And I thank you for what you do for this wonderful place and how you pay forward what you received when you came here. Thank you.
Okay, well, the committee would like for you, we're going to do something a little bit different this year, is that we're going to recognize each of the classmates, and then we're actually going to send around a microphone, and they would like for you to do a quick little introduction about who you are and maybe your hometown, that type of thing. We're going to start with Mr. Simic and Mr. Moberly. They're going to give us the examples of what we're looking for. So let's start with Kurt Simic.
I'm Steve Moberly. I'm from Shelbyville, Indiana. I lived in Wright Quad when I was a student.
I'm Kurt Simic, also known as Kurt the Croak from Calais. In any event, I grew up in Shelbyville, Indiana, and I now live in Bloomington, Indiana.
All right. And our lovely assistants, Tricia and Debbie and Jacqueline, will present you with a class gift. And we will start with Douglas Armstrong.
I grew up in New Albany, Indiana, next to Louisville, and I'm now a professor at Olivet Nazarene University. And I like chemistry that I'm never going to retire.
Karen Grimsley Ballswell.
I'm Sharon Grimsley Ballsblaw. I live in Northfield, Illinois, and was down here as a Wi-Fi.
Mary Ann Earl Bennett.
Thank you. I grew up in Tipton, Indiana, and now live south of Salt Lake City in a town called Riverton, Utah.
Reverend Franklin Breckenridge.
I'm originally from Kokomo, Indiana, and I now live in Elkhart, where I also am the pastor in South Bend of Olivet African Methodist Episcopal Church, and I maintain a private law practice in Elkhart, Indiana.
Keep it close. Cora Breckenridge.
My husband said I wasn't in your class, so I did get a master's in '63,
Yes.
so I am in the class. But I am Franklin's wife, and we have 3 children who are all IU grads, and I had the privilege of serving as one of your IU trustees, which was a wonderful experience. And I want to say to Kurt Simic, he's my fellow DASA award member last October, and it's just a wonderful privilege because Indiana University is an institution that brings about greatness in lives. Thank you.
Peggy Bentley Buchanan.
Hi, I'm from Clinton, Indiana, and I live in Lebanon now, and I was a trial.
Gwen Ferguson Comer.
Hello. I grew up in Mooresville, Indiana, taught elementary music for 40 years there, and I'm still there. So I was an alpha game with Mary Ann.
Melinda Brower Cravens.
Hello there, I'm Melinda Cravens, and I live in Carmel, Indiana, and my 3 children also graduated from IU.
Great.
William Eggleston. Class president.
Hi, I'm Bill Eggleston. Wow, that thing's alive. Anyway, I think that this gathering here, we knew it was special when we were here, right? But we didn't know how special. I mean, the 4 years or longer that we were here, this was an incredible place. For a lot of us, like me and many others, we were the first members of our household families to go to college and to be on a college campus. But to come back for this weekend, the way it's been presented and the beautiful way it's been laid out, I mean, Herman is watching us as he did when we were here. What a great thing. So I was an ATO when I was here. Thank you.
Carol Rome Evans.
Carol Reed Evans.
I'm sorry, Carol.
That's okay. Sorry, I'll forgive you.
Thank you.
I'm from Columbus, Indiana. My father graduated from IU. Yes, he was 100. He just passed away. He was 102 years old. He was in the chemistry, got his doctorate in chemistry. And my grandson also graduated from County School of Business 2 years ago. Yeah. And I want to tell all of you women that if you have not been to the colloquium, if you haven't participated in the women's philanthropy here, it's a great opportunity for everybody.
Debbie Pearl Faison.
Good afternoon. My name is not W. Earl Faison, Okay, it is Earl Faison. If I had gotten my class right, I could have been recognized by Earl Faison, but I'm 2 years late with my degree, so that's why I'm in 63. But I'm happy to be here. My home now is in Prescott, Arizona, and I'd like everybody to know that Indiana University prepared me for a 40-year career in education as a teacher, vice principal, principal, and district administrator. And I retired in '03 and moved to Prescott, Arizona. Thank you, IU, and all of you.
Mary Ann Cook Gradisher.
I'm next. I'm Sister Eagle. I'm originally from Herman, Indiana, and now from Crown Point. I got an education, my daughter did too, and my granddaughter's in the Kelly School of Business right now.
We are going to recognize Charlotte Brown Griffin. She was only able to join us yesterday, but hopefully those that were here yesterday was able to spend some time with Charlotte.
Shirley Frayne Goot.
Thank you. I would only spend my junior and senior year here on campus. I was privileged to attend the Northwest campus in Gary. In '59, they opened a brand new campus facility. And Ron Hancock and I were there. And I think our class was the first one to graduate with 60 hours there. And then, of course, arms were open to welcome me to Sycamore Hall. And I'm very happy to know that they are changing it back to a residence. It's been administrative for quite a while. But if you were lucky enough to live in that quad, there were 4 of us, you were in the center of campus. You could get anywhere, anytime in 5 minutes. And the farthest I ever had to walk was 7th Street. I had a speech class there, but everything else was just very handy.
Charles Waltney.
I'm from Southern Indiana, live in Indianapolis, and I've been for several years, taught in the Indianapolis Public Schools. I met my wife here, and my 2 sons also graduated from here.
I taught 43 years high school government, and IU has always been one of the loves of my life, and I appreciate serving on this committee. We were privileged, my wife and I, to have our daughter attend here. She was very involved at Indiana University. She was the president of the student body when she was here. She was involved in many, many decisions that were made, and she also loves Indiana University, and I can't wait to get back and tell her about this weekend.
Earlene Johnson Hewlett.
I grew up in Gary, Indiana, attended IU Northwest in 1959 until my junior year when I came here on campus and graduated with the class of 1963, of course. I taught school in the Gary Public Schools for 34 years in retirement, and I still reside in the area.
Roger Isaacs.
My name is Roger Isaacs, and I'm Italian. I married a Italian, and we live in Bloomington. I'm a part-time associate professor at the School of Dentistry in Indianapolis.
Betsy Nick Jackson.
My name is Betsy Jackson, and I'm originally from Rochester, New York. I transferred to IU my 2nd year, and I reside with my husband in Indianapolis right now. Thank you very much. It's been a wonderful weekend.
Christy Clements Johnson.
originally from Michigan City, Indiana, but I've spent my adult life in Tulsa, and I'm still a New York Life agent, and if you haven't chipped in on the check, I'm still working, and I could help you get a little bit more, so you can have a few more zeros on the check.
Phyllis Nita Johnston.
I spent 36 years as a Chicago public school teacher, and I now live in Glenview, Illinois.
Another classmate that was only able to join us yesterday, Colonel Lawrence Kassoff. If you had a chance to think, what a character he was. So, I'm looking forward to seeing him in 50 minutes. James Kennedy. I know James was here last night. Okay. Albert Cram.
I'm a native of Frankfort, Indiana, and this feels familiar to me because I had the opportunity to be on the board of directors of the student union for 2 years and vice president for my senior year, which reminds me I'd like to, we mentioned Dr. Wells a lot, I'd like to pay tribute to Bob Schaefer, who was dean of students when we were here. It was, Katie and I live in Columbus, Ohio, where I practice law. Unfortunately, very near another Big Ten university that we try real hard not to think about.
Barbara Moore Mallon.
I'm Barbara Mallon from North Olmsted, Ohio. I transferred here as a sophomore from Wisconsin, and I have been a business owner in Indianapolis for the last 46 years.
Sandra Schultz Moberly.
Thank you. I worked as a teacher after I graduated from IU, but the job that I really loved was working for my sorority, Alpha Chi Omega, at their headquarters in Indianapolis as the director of alumni programs and services, and also in connection with the Alpha Chi Omega Foundation for about 14 years.
Marilyn Scott Nunn.
Hi there. I'm originally from Hinsdale, Illinois. My sister and my mother were both graduates of Indiana University, and I now live in San Diego. And let me tell you what fun that has been, because I'm dealing with the Pac-10, including my own daughter. So in 1968, when the Hoosiers came out to play in the Rose Bowl, of course we had to go to the parade and the game. And that was O.J. Simpson, etc. SC, and the SC band has been touted all over as being the very best in the country. Wrong. We were sitting at the parade at the corner of Colorado and Orange, and the SC band came around 900 strong, and they're thud. They could play, they just couldn't march. And then here came the Hoosiers with their high step and their playing, and it just brought the house down. I was so proud, and I will continue to represent Indiana in the Pac-10.
Richard Pletcher.
I am, from Napanee, Indiana, and my lovely wife, class of 1964, is from Napanee, Indiana. We live in Napanee, Indiana. We have 2 daughters who live in Napanee, Indiana. We have 5 grandchildren who live in Napanee. We have spent the last 5 decades developing a place called Amish Acres, and we had the privilege and burden of employing 4 or 5 of Kurt Simmons' 12 or 13 brothers and sisters.
Elizabeth Allmeyer Quick.
Stephanie Carpenter Shoemaker.
graduated in the School of Allied Health Sciences, Physical Therapy. I met my husband here, who graduated in IU Medical School. We ended up going to Arizona for training and have lived there ever since. I'm happy to be back for this reunion. IU is where the roots are, and it's been a great weekend, and thank you, everybody.
Robert Sebring.
Thank you. I grew up in Gary, Indiana. I came to school here later than probably most graduates. And I credit IU with helping me fulfill some of my life dreams. My brother graduated from here in '61.
Paul Ann Hosler Sheets.
Good evening. I'm from Fort Wayne, Indiana. I'm here with my Phi Beta Phi sisters, stable in that. I graduated from IU actually in 1965 instead of 1963 with my class due to dropping out in order to raise money for students here who had been indicted for conspiracy to overthrow the government of Indiana and the government of the United States for having sponsored a lecture in the student union on the sit-in movement, which was considered seditious in 1963 when that happened. But I did graduate and later went on to Columbia Law School, practiced law in New York City for 15 years and then 25 years in Connecticut as an environmental lawyer, and I'm now defending homeowners against foreclosure. And I thank Indiana University for putting a fire in my mind and in my soul to do justice and do it intelligently. Thank you. It's great to be here.
Judith Chaplain Simic.
Hi, I'm originally from Evanston, Illinois. Came to IU with Sharon and pledged Pi Phi together. I have two sons who graduated from IU, and 14 years ago I moved to Bloomington to marry Kurt, and so I live here now.
I'm not sure if he was able to make it. Daniel Spitzberg. Cynthia Sexton Strickland.
Hi, I'm Cynthia Strickland. I graduated again with all these terrific sorority sisters. And I'm in '63. My parents both were IU graduates, and my mother, I'm proud to say, was one of the first graduates of the School of Business in 1940. And back then, not many were. My dad was medical school, but I had one of my two kids ended up at IU, so that's not too bad. 50% is better than none.
Richard Strain.
I'm a townie also. I don't know Kurt or Roger because they were always in jail. But the Strain clan sort of came from Harrisburg, Indiana. And my grandfather and his brother graduated from the old IU seminary in dentistry. Then my father graduated, my mother attended. I think my father probably stopped any more education for her. And my younger brother and I graduated from IU. I was listening to the rock and roll discussion today, and I just really reflected on how lucky all of us were to grow up in the time we did, and to be in Bloomington, Indiana, and to attend Indiana University. I think very few people can reflect back on that time and think about how much fun we really had. Thank you.
Keller Street.
Well, I followed in my sister's footsteps. She graduated in 1960. I'm Italian also. I left Bloomington for 5 years and then returned and taught here for 33 more years. So I have a total of 38 years. I enjoy living in Bloomington, and I bleed red, I think. And it's been a wonderful weekend. There's just so many things, and even though I live here, I learned new things this weekend, and I'm sorry we didn't have more people here. And I'm now on the school board here, so I haven't totally retired yet.
Ann Lyons Sutton.
Hi, I'm, as you know, a graduate of '63, and my husband didn't quite make it the right year. I have kind of a funny story, and I think maybe I can tell it now. He had to take German. I was a German major and ended up teaching German for 40 years. But he had to take German, and he couldn't pass. He just couldn't do it. So he took the correspondence course, and he didn't think he'd get a diploma because he didn't do the correspondence course. The diploma came in the mail. And he did not apply to graduate school at Indiana University. He did get a graduate degree somewhere else. Okay?
Sally Shaw Tansel.
I'm from Lebanon, Indiana, where I've lived all my life, and I taught journalism and English for 23 years at the high school there, and never a day went by that I didn't thank Professor Gretchen Kemp for the foundation I got at Indiana University.
Patricia Faulkner Tharp.
I'm Pat Tharp. We were hell-bent on getting to this reunion. Early and I are both buddies and sorority sisters. And this is our first reunion. And I've been back to Ivy once. And she has been once or twice. And so this has been glorious. We started out at 9 o'clock yesterday morning. And to come with I got a call saying my husband was ill. I had to go to the emergency room with him. Got it all clear. Took him home, gave him to my daughter. And Earlene and I started out again at 4:38 this morning. So it's been wonderful. Brought back old memories. I'm so glad that Turning Wells walked back to the door because it was a special place to be. It's been great.
Luann Tiernan.
I'm originally from Indiana. I grew up in Gary, but I've lived the last 40 years in Illinois, where I taught at a community college. I do also want to thank IU for my experience as a teaching assistant here in the German department, by the way, and not but for the wonderful preparation. And contrary to what everybody thinks about TAs, we met every Monday for 2 or 3 hours, and that's what we talked about, was how we were teaching and how we were doing and how to do it better. So I'm very grateful for that experience. It was wonderful.
Jean McDavid Tony.
Hello, I'm from Decatur, Illinois, born and raised, still live there. Sounds boring. It's really been a wonderful life, but especially 4 years at Indiana. These gals and the university just made it so special. And it's so wonderful seeing all the new things, but aren't we glad it only took 5 or 10 minutes to get to class when we were
Stephen Tracy.
My name is Steve Tracy. I grew up in Fort Wayne, started here in '59, graduated in '63, landed Chi Alpha, Wright Quad, and I'm so pleased to be here again. Unfortunately, you need to add to the program enough time for everybody to get to the bakery for the sugar cookies.
Susan Arnold Tracy.
Hi, I'm originally from Michigan, graduated high school in Fort Wayne, and I transferred here from Miami of Ohio, and I have every minute of IU. I think I've lived all over the place. My best place was the Tridell House. Married a classmate, that's Steve, and I'm a clinical speech pathologist, and IU gave me a wonderful career and a wonderful life.
Howard Turner.
Hi, I'm Howard Turner. Grew up in Evansville, Indiana, now live in Richfield, Connecticut. I'm stunned with the number of teachers who are here, and as founding chairman of Richfield Academy and board chairman of the Richfield Conservatory of Dance now, I know what it means to be a teacher and to be part of that group of very important people in children's lives. And I commend all of you for your multiple years of teaching. I'm very proud to know that about the school.
Franklin Urbans.
I'm Frank Urbans. I grew up in Rushville, Indiana, came down to Indiana and learned about the world. And when I left here, I did a tour of the Marine Corps. And then, upon my return to Vietnam, I went to Chicago. And I've been there my entire business life.
Carolyn Jones Woods.
I'm Carolyn Woods, 1963 graduate, and 1966 with my master's, and I'm the fourth generation of my family in Indianapolis, Indiana. I was a teacher for 40 plus years. I have two daughters, one is a physician and the other is an electrical engineer, but I love my time in Indiana.
Lee Witherspoon.
Before Lee speaks, Carolyn's family was one of the first black families to originate in Indianapolis. Her great-great-grandparents migrated from the South to Indianapolis, settled there, and opened up one of the first sand mills. And I'm going to have to take the whipping from Carolyn for saying this, but I think it's worthwhile saying.
Witherspoon. I live in Santa Barbara and Newton, New Hampshire. I'm a psychologist and an author. And how fortunate we were to come here in the 50s and to graduate in the 60s. What a marvelous time we had. It just can't be matched by almost anything in life. And I feel so grateful and delighted to be back home in Indiana.
Charles C. Hawk. Charles C. Sorry.
Hello. I'm from about 35 miles from Louisville, Kentucky. I studied music when I was in high school because my mother insisted at Garden Court, University of Louisville. I studied with Audrey Nosselman, who said, "You must go to Indiana. You must study with Madame Mansky, who had been with the Met." And that was a wonderful experience, and I loved it. I learned a lot from her. However, I didn't do so well in music theory. After I pledged Pi Phi, I got 4 hours of D. I went from the dean's list to no list at all. So I decided, well, and Mansky said, "Oh, it's not important." And she also arranged for me to have my lunch German lessons with Professor Nettles' wife. who at the time was a little dumb girl from Kentucky, and her house was so cold, I thought my knees were shaking. But she would make a little German sandwich with the pumpernickel bread and the butter. She was lovely, and she all over the walls were things to Professor Nettle, love from Albert Einstein. And all of these things were just overwhelming to me because I was a little farm girl from Kentucky. So Indiana really did open a new life for me, and not only intellectually, because when I got out of music, I went into English literature, and it was great. The humanities are my thing. Don't put me in math or physics. But that was the intellectual side, but the emotional side were my sisters in Phi Phi. They made it wonderful to be alive and living and being able to share things with women. Thank you so much.
Okay, did we miss anyone from the class of 63? Okay. All those crazy pie-pies.
Well, I'm not a legitimate graduate in '63. I graduated 10 years later, so I always consider myself 10 years younger. Well, I married an IU graduate from Evansville. We had 2 daughters who graduated from Indiana University. And I went on to marry a second husband who was an IU graduate. You do not have time to listen to all of the places I've lived. But let me say to you that we have all done our very best to make IU proud of us. And I too feel so happy to be back home in Indiana.
Who else did we miss?
I'm Susan Crane Kyle, and I should have graduated in '63, but after 2 years in Bloomington, I chose to go to the medical center and go to nursing school. So I actually graduated in '64. So next year I'll get to attend another 50-year reunion.
Anyone else? Okay, before we start with the class of 52, let's recognize all of you from the class of 1963. All right, you characters over here. Let's start with George Burr.
I had the pleasure of attending Indiana University for 1 year. This was during the Korean War. Excuse me, the Navy had me for another 4 years, so I actually graduated from the Navy. I live in Pasadena, California. I'm looking forward to seeing Indiana in the Rose Bowl again. And I know you'll win. Thank you.
And Joanne Ebner Burr.
Hi, I'm Joanne Ebner Burr, and my father absolutely defied me if I would not come to Indiana University because that was his alma mater. And so I came and was under the stern guardianship of Professor Stemple in the journalism department, and my husband. And we now live in Pasadena, California, which we thought was very far away until we found out it was originally known as the Indiana Colony.
Janice McComas Custer.
I grew up in Fishers, Indiana, when it had 250 people. And I think it now has, what, 70,000 or something like that. I
attended Broad Ripple High School in Indianapolis and then came to IU, where I majored in journalism with Dr. Stemple also. And there were several of them here, several of the journalism graduates. I enjoyed all my years here. I was a Kappa. I have 4 children, 2 of whom attended Indiana University and 2 who went to that other university. Couldn't help it, but anyway, I enjoyed all my years here very much. Thank you.
Julie Ferris.
I'm from Bloomington. I was born and raised here and left in 53 and came back in 83 because Bloomington is the only place to be. And I love IU and I love Bloomington. So many of my relatives went here. My mother and dad went here, did not graduate but went here, and several of my children and grandchildren. So Indiana is my home.
Marilyn Bartle Henkel.
Hello, I was born and raised in Oak Park, Illinois, but came here. My husband was a graduate in 51 and rode in that first little 500, for which none of the riders had any training, and how they all avoided heart attacks, I don't know. It was a terrible moment to see it. We were already together, and it was a terrible moment to see him come off, looking like he was about done. We went on, and I too was a teacher of English, mainly in Arlington, Virginia. And then when we retired, we moved back to Michigan, so I live in Michigan now.
Joseph Marlin.
Hi. I grew up, I should say first, I was born in the great metropolis of Argus, Indiana, only slightly larger than Fisher, or Fishers, I think. But I grew up in Fort Wayne, but have lived in Chicago for quite a few decades. So I have degrees from 2 great universities, one from Indiana and one from the University of Chicago, where I live about 3 blocks from campus, which is in one direction, and a block and a half from President Obama in the other direction. So I really have enjoyed being back here. And by the way, I should say that I understand Argus, Indiana is still there, although I haven't been there for quite a while.
Kenneth Pendery.
First of all, I want to thank the class of '63 for allowing us to be a part of this. At our age, you know, we're not included in too many situations. Well, we're very happy to be here. And in my case, my wife and I are hillbillies from Kentucky, and all 5 of our children have come through Indiana University.
I will resist introducing Stella the way that Ken does, but think Streetcar Named Desire. Stella Roland Pendery.
I think Ken said about all of it, but I have enjoyed being here in Indiana, and this has been a terrific.
One of my dear friends, Pat Scheidler.
Well, if anybody had told me 60 years ago that we would be back in Bloomington after many corporate moves throughout the country, my husband Ken graduated a year ahead of us, and I met him here through Stella, that I'd be back here on the House floor for Pi High for 20 years. You'll enjoy what you see tomorrow, believe me. Work with people like Mike and Debbie, where's Debbie? It's been such a pleasure being back in Bloomington. This is a great place to live. You're not with a bunch of old people, you're with young people. And you know, it's exciting when you tell these young gals, we had ours, and they look at you like, what? They don't understand it, but the students are so exciting now. It's fun to be around them and to realize that they're carrying on the tradition that we have been so proud of. my parents both graduated from here, and I started coming down here on campus in the 30s. And it's grown a little bit, but it's such a great place. And as we drive through campus many times, we say, we can't believe we're here. It's such a beautiful place. So welcome back to all of you, and come back and see us again, or move here.
Sally Fostick-Soyber.
I grew up in Liberty, Indiana, and I now live in Las Vegas. I graduated in fashion merchandising. Fashion has changed a great deal. I was one of the first department managers at the jail Hudson Company, and started in the junior department. And I worked off and on in fashion merchandising, and just retired a year ago.
Rose Overstreet Stein.
Expect to do this, but I grew up in Indianapolis, Indiana, and some of us went to Shoreditch High School together, grade school together, so this is a great return occasion for me. I've been affiliated with Grand Valley State University in Grand Rapids, Michigan since '65, but Indiana is still very special.
Barbara Redding Stout.
It seems like yesterday rather than 60 years ago. Excuse me. My parents too met in Indiana, so I owe my life as well as my livelihood to this campus. I was a community college professor for 30 years. 2 of my daughters have degrees from the music school, so the tradition continues.
And last but not least, Jane Tarr Wilson.
I grew up in South Bend, and Argus is still there. I currently live in South Bend, St. Louis, Lake St. Louis. They don't really understand Hoosiers. Hoosiers are got nice people to them. And I had a workman in my home, and I looked at him and I said, as long as you're working for me, you will not say the word Hoosier, because that is a word that they use in bars to talk about Indiana people. My husband was senior class president, and he is here. He loved it. And I'm happy to be here with my many classmates.
I think may have missed someone over here. Yep.
The maiden name is Smith, it's pretty easy to miss. Anyway, I grew up in Indianapolis, and as a French major here at IU, I have to tell you it has really helped 3 different careers, and currently it is helping my duplicate bridge career tremendously. I live in Sarasota, Florida. Thank you. My name, Jean Smith Miniman. I'm sorry.
And if I may say, it has been a pleasure for me to spend this weekend with you all. And I appreciate you letting us come into your class, and appreciate you allowing me to be a part of your lives a little bit this weekend. Thank you.
And before I call up our president of the chapter, the Singing Hoosiers Alumni Chapter, I also want to take just a minute to thank all of you for coming back. I'm an alum of this university, and you are a great inspiration to all of us. I wish more of you would have taken advantage of this weekend. And I know I've said this once throughout the weekend, but again, reunion programming is very important to all of us at the Alumni Association, and we would love for this to continue. So make sure to share the wonderful experience that you had this weekend. Tell your friends what they missed. Hopefully, I challenge the class of '63 to come back and match your class of 53 on coming back in 60 years. I want to see you all here again. Thank you so much. Now I'd like to introduce Colin McCarty, who's the president of the Senior Hoosiers Alumni Association, to start our entertainment.
Thank you very much. Good evening. 20 years ago, I was a part of this group, the Senior Hoosiers, and we performed at the Alumni Barbecue under a scorching hot tent outside of Bryan House, honoring the class of 1943. And so, not long after that, a few of us had the honor of singing Happy Birthday to Herman Wells that summer. So it was a pretty unique summer for me. And I know these students have got a great summer ahead of them as well. So, without further ado, it is my privilege, my honor, from Japan to Puerto Rico, from Beijing, China, to the tutor room at IMU. The Indiana University Jacob School of Music proudly presents, under the direction of Dr. Stephen Zagri, our fourth director in 63 years, Dr. Stephen Zagri, the Indiana University Singing Hoosiers.
In the heart. sweet and clear as moonlight through the pines. I said, Georgia, my sweet Georgia, the whole day through, da-da-da-da-dee-da.
Thank you all, and good evening. We are the Singing Hoosiers from the Jacobs School of Music, right here in Indiana. And I must say how thrilling it was for me to hear all of you introduce yourselves and say where you're from. Did I hear somebody over here say they were from Warsaw, Indiana? Did somebody say Warsaw? No. Okay. In any case, it's so thrilling for us, and we were doing the math in the eating room there while we were ready to perform. We were doing the math and figuring out that some of you have been around for a while. But we want you to know that, for those of you from the class of 1963, we want you to know that the Singing Hoosiers this fall will be beginning their 64th year here at Indiana University. And which means when we began, most of you hadn't quite yet entered puberty. I hope that puts things in perspective. In any case, the first piece we did was composed by, of course, you probably know it right under my skin, Cole Porter, great Indiana Hoosier composer from Peru. And the last piece, Georgia on My Mind, of course, Ogie, you all know that. Which, all that means to say is that these students love singing the oldies. Do you love the oldies too? So do we. The only problem that I have to deal with as director is that to these people, an oldie is a song that was composed before the year 2003. They also love doing the hits of today, though, and that's part of who these are. Now, you need to know the Singing Hoosiers don't exist in the summer, and the group really is about 80 singers and an 8-piece band. And they just got the lousy piano player tonight. And these students who, well, let's put it this way, I heard some of you say you traveled great distances, and it was wonderful to hear Colin introduce us, because not only do we have students here from Indiana, but we also have some who come to us from Michigan, and from Tennessee, and from Ohio, and from Iowa, and Illinois, and from Beijing, China to the tutor room. So you see, some people have traveled, in fact, all the way from Beijing to be with you. In any case, we'll just do a couple more tunes, including asking you to sing along with us. So that's a fair warning, warm up your pipes. And in this case, one more tune from the great, great songbook of Ogie Carmichael.
Up a lazy river where the old mill runs, meets lazy, lazy river in the noonday sun. Linger in the shade of a kind old tree, throw away your troubles, dream a dream of me. Up a lazy river where the robin's song awakes a bright new morning, we can loaf along. Blue skies up above, everyone's in love. Up a lazy river, how happy we will be. Up a lazy river with me. Up a lazy river where the old mill runs, we lazy, lazy river in the noonday sun. Linger in the shade of a kind old tree, throw away your troubles, dream a dream of me. Up the lazy river where the robin's song awaits a bright new morning, we can loaf along. Blue skies up above, everyone's in love. Up a lazy river, how happy we will be. Up a lazy river with linger in the shade of a kind old tree, throw away your troubles, dream a dream of me. Up a lazy river where the robin's song awaits a bright new morning, we can loaf along. Blue skies up above, everyone's in love. Up a lazy river, how happy we will be. Up a lazy river with me.
Thank you all so much. Are there any Singing Hoosier alumni in the house tonight? Really? Indiana Bells, close enough, that's great. As Colin mentioned, it's rather extraordinary, I think, in the 64-year history of this wonderful institution at IU called the Singing Hoosiers. I am the 4th director. So maybe some of you knew some of my predecessors. They were wonderful, wonderful people. And we hope you can visit us at singinghoosiers.org. We hope you will see us. We might be coming to a place near you, like next year, Indianapolis, February the 8th. We will be sharing a concert with the Men's Glee Club from that other university. I know. So we would appreciate to have some IU alum support at that concert very much. And so come check us out at singinghoosiers.org. And last but not least, certainly, I would like to thank these students for volunteering their time and driving back to Bloomington just to be able to share a little bit of time and be inspired by all this. This you need to know as proud alums, and it really struck me to hear you speak and to hear the passion and the pride you have as IU alums. And telling the truth now, right before we walked out on stage, I said, you guys have to use your imagination. I know this might be hard, but as you look at them, tell them, right when we're done, tell them it's not that hard. I ask them to use their imagination and imagine yourselves in 50 years as proud alums, right? They can't do that. I know they can't do it. Maybe you can help them.
Don't do it.
But this I can tell you, as I know the passion and the pride of your feelings for this university, I can tell you that the future of this university is in great hands because I get to work with students like this on a daily basis. I hope you get to meet them. These are not all music majors. They are from all the majors across the university, and you will be very proud to know that these are the best ambassadors for this university, whether we're on the road, and the future is in great hands because of the Singing Hoosiers. If you are able to, would you mind standing and joining us in the singing of the alma mater? Would you be so kind? Come and join in song. 3.